Howdy folks, hello and welcome to Michigan International Speedway here in the 87 Monte Carlo. Just been running laps and I'm going to give you a few pointers on, give you a little preview on what to look for, what seems to be working based on my practice here. You can see a little tire tracks going over there. So one thing that I'll say right up front is this is definitely a track where you're going to want to throw the brake bias all the way down to its lowest value of 42%. This setup that I'm running that is in iRacing currently is super tight. I don't know if they're planning on doing an update for it, but it is extremely tight. For your hot lap, like you saw me doing there, you want to go high through 3 and 4 and try to get it, you know, just as get as much speed wound up as possible going out of it. I really didn't want to have the reference car on here, but that's fine for right now. But yeah, you want the least amount of brake bias possible. You're not using so much brake that you're gonna spin the car out here, and really, it's so tight. You need everything you can have to help you rotate the thing. Tire wear here is absolutely brutal. You can it looks like you're going to be able to go the full 50-lap race length on fuel, but I have been struggling in these in my practice runs to make 25 laps without destroying the right front tire. So I don't think there's any way that you're going to be able to run a competitive pace during the race and keep the tires under you for the full 50 laps. The setup's just so tight that right front is going to get destroyed well before you run out of fuel in this thing. So with that in mind, you know, you're going to want to be driving the whole time sort of with the mindset of really taking care of that right rear or the right front for as long as you can. So kicking the brake bias back is part of it. You want to get the back end kicked out a little bit in the corner as much as you can. And when you're coming off the corner, try to get it to the point where you can sort of drive it straight off as quickly as possible. You don't want to be coming off the corner with a ton of gas in it and a whole bunch of wheel cranked into it. You want to be pointed straight off these corners, because that's really, it's not under braking where you torch the right front as much. It's when you're fully in the throttle and you've got the wheel cranked and you're just scraping it and sliding it out to the wall. That's when you destroy and eat up the most of your right front. If you get a race where it goes green the whole way, which is very possible at a track as big and wide as Michigan, the cars are actually pretty easy to drive here. Shouldn't have much problem with spinning out on your own. I've had to like really force it and overdrive it to induce self spins. It's pretty easy to keep the thing under control through the corners, and you can see I'm full throttle here, bunch of wheel cranked into it and still pushing out to the wall. It's so tight, you're not going to see self spins. Where you might see some cautions is guys washing out and pushing into other people when they're racing too hard. That could cause cautions, but if the field gets spread out, it is very likely going to stay green the whole race. So I would say, you know, with that in mind, pit stop strategy for this deal, I would pit right at lap 25, try to, you know, coax and baby your tires to get to lap 25, make one pit stop, only change right side tires, because those 12 seconds, 10 to 12 seconds that you save only doing rights are going to matter a ton. If you put fuel in it, don't put more than a can in. So go over to the F4 menu and drop the fuel to add 11 gallons, or just uncheck fuel. I don't think you're going to need it. But, you know, if you feel like you're short of the distance, maybe put in a couple gallons just to be safe. Or if you feel like you want some weight in the back of the car, add 1 can on that fuel stop. I haven't played a lot with what's actually better balance-wise for that. I'll probably go just a gallon or 2 or no fuel at all under that pit stop to keep the car as light as possible. But having that weight in the back end might be better balance-wise. But definitely do a 2-tire stop if you go under green. And probably you're going to want to do a 2-tire stop. I would say I'm probably going to be running the full race on the same left side tires. It does seem to loosen the car up a little bit if you pit for rights only and leave the same left side tires on there. But left side tires aren't going to mean much for speed, and the fall off happens so quick here that it evens up pretty quick. The tires fall off pretty fast, and then your times. Fastest time I've run in practice was a 42.806. That was at 114 degrees. Track temp right now is at 123. But I noticed that you'll fall off like 2 or 3 tenths a lap until you level out at running right around 44 flats to 44 twos, somewhere in there. It can be a little bit difficult to keep those times exactly consistent because a slight miss in terms of where you hit your entry or where you get your throttle point back can mean the difference of a couple tenths of a second on any given lap. But right when you level out in that 44 flat to 44.2 range, depending on temperature, it seems to keep that for a while until you get into the last 20% of that right front tire, at which point they're going to fall off. But those times are going to be the same whether you change left side tires or not, so there's really no point in gaining lefts. That 10-second gap that you're going to get over the people who changed 4 tires is going to mean way more than the couple tenths of a second a lap, if any, that they might be able to gain on you for really only the first couple laps that they have fresh tires. Things are going to level out and even out pretty quickly between the 2-tire guys and the 4-tire guys. So that's why I would say you're probably going to want to do 2 tires almost no matter what on these pit stops. And if it's a little bit looser on those first couple laps, just deal with that extra little bit of looseness. Honestly, it's so tight that a little bit of extra looseness in the setup is going to be more than welcome. I wouldn't be surprised to see them put out another Tuesday patch. So if they do, be aware of that. If they do, I might try to do another video after the patch comes out to note some of the differences. But I'm not expecting a patch for Monday. So for Monday's race, which is usually the strength of field race in this series, not always, but that one tends to pretty consistently have the stronger fields where if you're running for points. That Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern race is the one to drop into. 8:30 p.m. Central Time, that's when I run. So, if you're going for points, you're going to want to be in that race, and it looks like we're going to have a pretty tight setup. I'll also note that the gear, again, seems a little bit tall. I'm getting the light at the end of the straightaways, but I'm not anywhere close to hitting the chip. I'm at about 7,000 RPM instead of 7,500. In the draft, we might see a little bit higher, but I just kind of feel like that this gear is a little bit longer than maybe it needs to be. I prefer a slightly shorter gear ratio if they end up changing things. And again, a looser setup would be nice to have. It's really tight here this week, but the struggle is going to be trying to play with the throttle, play with your entry, trying to find ways to get that car to rotate. Again, pushing that brake bias all the way back to 42% and using the brake to turn the thing a little bit is a big, one of the only things you can do to really improve the steering. I throw the steering ratio up to 16:1, especially at a big track like this. You really don't want a lot of extra noise in the wheels, so throwing it up to a bigger steering ratio really helps in terms of keeping your movements smoother on the wheel. So, you know, that just means less unnecessary movement in the tires, and should help your wear a little bit. It also helps you by not scrubbing off as much speed with unnecessary wobbles as you're going down the straightaway, or unnecessary noise and chatter in the corners. You can see right now I'm running 44.5s, so there is a little bit of drop off that I've noticed that happens in the later part of the run. That is a little bit different from how these cars used to be. So there is a little bit of extra fall off after the time stabilize, run a few more laps. They seem to slow down a little bit more, and then there's just a huge cliff when you go over that 20% mark where you lose another like half second. At that point, you sort of know your tires are done. You usually feel a little bit of unsteadiness in the wheel as well, and then you're sort of going to be in a spot where it's like, is it worth it to try to push it and make sure that I get, you know, if you're right close to getting to lap 25 in your run or something like that, make sure that you get that over that hump to one-stop it. I wouldn't be surprised to see some folks go on a two-stop strategy if they just absolutely decimate their right front. They might not even be able to make it 25 laps if it goes green. And do a two-stop strategy. That'd be pitting probably at lap 16, 17, and then again at lap 33, 34, somewhere in there. You're going to lose a lot of time. Again, though, on those stops, do not take 4 tires. Take 2. You're talking about 20 seconds at that point that you're giving up if you take 4 tires on each of those stops. And I really think that, you know, track position is going to matter so much as well in the start of these runs, that it's probably going to be worth taking 2 tires under caution as well if you get one and you decide to pit under yellow. I personally am not likely to pit under caution if it comes out, I would almost say, a caution before lap 20. If a caution hits on lap 20, you pit on lap 21, 22, you get another pace lap or 2. That leaves you with about a 25 to 26 lap run when the green flag drops again. You can probably stretch the tires if it goes green the whole way. Otherwise, you're in a situation where you're pitting, you're using your set of tires. You're going to have to pit again if the race runs green the whole way, so you're not really gaining that big of an advantage over the guys who stay out. Now, you will get time on them right at the start of the run, but I'd rather save that set of tires for, you know, say a caution that comes out maybe around lap 35 or 40, and be able to leapfrog all the guys who are out of tires at that point, potentially. Now, you know, it's not an exact science. If a caution comes at laps 15 to 17, that's going to be a real decision that you're going to have to make as to whether or not it's the right call to pit there and try to stretch it, or, you know, pit there, put on the tires and not be a sitting duck and get absolutely crushed. But as I'm sort of, you know, theory crafting certain strategy and thinking about what the game plan might be going into the race, that's sort of where my head's at. I always recommend having a game plan in advance of going into the race so that you sort of know what your plan is rather than trying to figure it out on the spot. Have it sort of an idea. If a caution comes out on lap 15, the plan is to do this. If the caution comes out on lap 17, the plan is to do this. If the caution comes out on lap 20, I'm planning on doing this, you know, so you're prepared. Looks like in this run that I've actually been really hard probably on the right front, harder than I'd like, because I think I'm about 20 laps in, and it feels like the right front just went off the cliff. So, you know, I was running pretty hard. I know you heard the tires absolutely squealing, but I just ran a 45-25, and I really felt it when I was coming off too. We'll see if I can get a better exit this time. But yeah, it just wants to just absolutely wash out now, where I sort of had grip there before. These tires are basically done, and I think I've only done like 20 laps on them. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm about to get a meatball, but I'm going to bring it in and pit right here. I want to put 2 tires on just to test that out, and we'll see where the tread's actually at. I'm going to do no fuel, just 2 tires, get back up to pace speed here. And I want to show you what I'm talking about in terms of, you know,
5,
if we run
4,
the rights completely
3,
off,
2,
come in and only change
1.
the rights, don't get left side tires, you're going to look at about a 10-second time. Yeah, my right front was at 15%. So like I said, once you cross that 20% threshold, there is just an absolute cliff. All right, so tires. I'm going to put this back against my session opt lap as I pull out here. If I can actually do that properly. I keep running right past it. There we go. So, my lefts right now have 73% on the left front, 82% on the left rear. Right front was at 15%, and the right rear was at 67%. We're going to go do a couple laps here, get back up to speed, and see. You know, I think at the start of that run, I ran about a 42.9-ish. So, rights only. We'll see how much time we're actually giving up versus what we had with 4 fresh tires. And I think we're going to see that it's really not that much. And you know, there's a chance that you might even be able to find a little bit better pace with the car rotating a little bit better for those first few laps on the old left side tires. Looks like I'm going to be about a 10th slower here. So again, if you're under caution and you're pretty sure that everyone else is going to take 4 tires, you might be better off taking 4. It kind of depends. You know, I wouldn't expect to be able to hold your position necessarily against 4 tires on the first lap or 2. Kind of depends on your competition and how good of a restart you get. Restarts are definitely going to be important. That's one of the best opportunities you're going to have to make passes. But you're going to see here that, you know, that lap was a 43.1. Lap 2 is again going to be around the same time. Almost exactly the same time. And yeah, by the time both of your tires even out, that guy who took 4 tires is just never going to catch you from the 10 seconds back that you gained on him. So, I'll do that. Now, it is super important, I think, to try to take care of your right front, though. And by taking care of it, I mean try to get that back end kicked out. Try not to burn it too much on the exits. and at least get it to that 25 lap mark where you can make this a one-stop race. I don't think that a two-stop strategy will beat a well-managed one-stop strategy. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, that kind of covers it in terms of strategy. I'm going to pop out of the car here in a second, and I'm going to we'll see. I don't know exactly how many laps I made on that first run. I think I was a little bit shy of the 25 lap mark. I may have been a lot shy of it. But I was in with 15%. You can probably limp through a couple more laps, and I think it's worth doing that versus, even if you're giving up really good, you're giving up about almost a full second to normal tires for a couple laps. That's better than taking an entire extra pit stop. But that'll be a real decision. I think some people, I would have to actually run it out, do a couple runs stopping at laps 16 or 17 versus full run 50 laps where you only stop at lap 25 and see how the numbers actually work out on those, to see which one would actually be faster. But that's gonna be it for my preview of Michigan. I'm just gonna do one more lap here, and I actually kind of like the way that this thing's handling right now with the two tires. It feels fine. It's so tight this week. It's going to be the biggest thing, is combating that tightness. For the line, again, you're going to want to be sort of right down to the bottom, I think, through this whole front straightaway most likely. Maybe not. Maybe running up by the wall would be better. But sort of arc it in there. Use the brake to rotate it. Again, have that brake bias set all the way back. Get back to the throttle and try to get it on the right rear, a little bit skewed, and work the throttle back so that you're riding it back to the wall. 3 and 4, same deal. High entry. Your apex is a little bit earlier in 3 and 4 because the corner widens out, as opposed to, it's an increasing radius corner as you come off of 4 versus a decreasing radius corner in 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 you're going to late apex, 3 and 4 you're going to early apex. I think that's about it. Looking forward to tomorrow. Hope I see a lot of y'all out there. I'm going to try to do these preview videos once a week. See if we can, hopefully a few more folks who are less confident about running these cars will be a little bit more confident if there's a good, solid preview video for them. And, I love running these cars. I think it's a fun series. I would love to see the participation come up a little bit. I know I'm complaining a lot about the setup this week and how tight it is, but,
Start looking for your sign.
I would say,
5.
Let's
4,
keep talking about
3,
that and stuff like that,
2,
and hopefully,
1.
Especially with Dale Jr. really putting a lot of focus on this series because it's the one that he really likes to run. We're gonna see some movement on that. So, looking at some of the runs that I did, my first run had the fastest lap, but that was under the coolest track temp. Track temp's definitely going to make a difference. That latest run that I did started at lap 88, was lap 1, so 87 to 108. So that's a 21 lap run. So that one, again, I wasn't taking care of the right front well enough to make a full 25 lap run. I was about 4 laps short. So in that situation, I'm probably actually looking at a 2-stop race if I abuse the right front that much. I can't emphasize enough how important it's going to be to try to take care of that right front if this thing goes green the whole way. and try to turn this into a one-stop race where you do one stop for 2 tires. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, if you want to see more of these, click the like button, drop something in the comments for me. See you out there at Michigan. Thank you so much. Peace out.